We are ready to start. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome. As you may know, we are here today gathered to present OGP's new Memorandum on Parliamentary Engagement and accompanying new guidance that we have developed recently, and to explore the opportunities for parliaments not only to strengthen their own openness, but to play their part as key actors in advancing open government reforms at the national and the local level. So we are very glad you are here. To do that, we will share a short presentation from the support unit where we will present this new memorandum and these new materials. Unfortunately, we have some special guests today who will share some of their experiences and learnings throughout this process of getting parliaments to be ambitious and leaders in these open government reforms. So thank you so much for being here. I will introduce the speakers in a few minutes too. Please introduce yourself in the chat box. It is important to mention that we are having English-French translation. So please, if you need it, go to the interpretation button below in your Zoom bar. And we will also be sharing our presentation in English and French in the chat box in case you need it. So I think we are already 55 here, reformers and activists who are interested in pursuing this leadership from parliaments in the open government agenda. So I am very glad we are all here today. So let's start. As I mentioned, I will share a short presentation with you with details, and then we will have the honor of listening to our three speakers today. The member of the parliament, Ms. Ines Boyka from Latvia, Sami Obeng, Executive Director of Parliamentary Network Africa, and Mr. Mohamed Douka, General Advisor on International Cooperation of the Chamber of Representatives of Morocco. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here today. I will start with the presentation of the materials, and then we will get to our conversation. So I will share my screen briefly here. Hope. Let me see. Just a minute so I can. Here. I hope you're seeing the presentation now. Here we are, okay. Well, as some of you may know, and of course, if you're here because we share this interest and this conviction that parliaments are key actors in the open government agenda. Many of the key aspirations of the open government movement could not be realized without parliaments. Many of the landmark reforms, for example, had been achieved through the OGP platform, through the leadership of parliaments. Throughout OGP's history and well before, positive or negative actions by the parliament have had significant impact on the enabling environment of the open government. And parliaments have been engaging in the OGP processes since the early days of the partnership. So this is a very special opportunity for us now to present this reform and improve memorandum for parliament's participation. So, but why, which is the importance of parliaments engaging in this agenda? Of course, for parliaments, there's an opportunity here in generating additional mechanism to hear from civil society and citizens, to stay up to date with government's commitments and hold them accountable on their commitments around the open government agenda, to be leaders in this agenda and to role model the open government values. And of course, there's an opportunity to lead in the global platform, to showcase experiences, to promote peer exchange. For the executive branch, of course, there's an opportunity securing legislation that enables, and it's in many occasions, it's necessary, the coordination between the branches to promote and fulfill the Open Gov commitments. And of course, ensuring budget, codifying or institutionalizing reforms, and sharing inputs from the public consultation of the OGP processes and other consultations with the Parliament. And of course, there's an opportunity for civil society, who are in many cases the ones who lead and who promote this agenda, to achieve more sustainability of reforms across political cycles and parties, and of course, an important avenue for advocating for citizens' rights or interests. So what happens here with this new approach? Well, the new memorandum was approved by the end of last year, 2021. It was developed through an extensive review process based on evidence gathering and consultations. And here I have to especially thank all our partners, points of contact, civil society representatives, who have been part of this consultation. This is the result of a very long and well thought process, which lead us here to this new Memorandum on Parliamentary Engagement. It was approved last year, as I said, by the steering committee, and it sets out the role of parliaments, the way they can engage, and the parameters for this engagement. So which are the 4 areas we see as strategic in this area? Well, taking legislative action for sure, ensuring parliamentary oversight, opening up parliamentary processes, and creating space for dialogue. So let's take a minute to explore some options here. Well, evidence suggests, and we are sure that many of these OGP commitments require and would benefit from legislative action or implementation, and parliaments can help advance these commitments. We have seen some examples of this in Nigeria, for example, around the beneficial ownership transparency law, or around many right to information laws which have benefited from coordination from the branches. Around oversight, of course, there's a real role that parliaments can play, monitoring the implementation of the OGP commitments, or even leveraging its oversight to acquire information, get more involved in the implementation of the OGP agenda, and of course, holding the executive to account for the implementation. We have some very interesting cases, both in Kyrgyzstan and Liberia. They have formally committed to legislative oversight of the OGP. Around open parliament, and this is a very, very important agenda, of course, there are some measures and commitments that parliaments can adopt and promote open government values to improve their own transparency, accountability, and access to information. We have great examples here. For example, in Estonia, they have committed to improving online legislative transparency by publishing all legislative committee meetings in a timely manner. And finally, there's a key role parliaments can play in fostering dialogue. There are many thematic priorities and opportunities that require and demand dialogue spaces, and the parliament can play a key role here. There are many illustrative commitments in our website, so I invite you to visit it. Let's hear. So which are these 3 models for engagement that we are presenting in the memorandum? The first one, and the one we prefer, is participation in national OGP processes and plan. And why I say it's the preferred, because its evidence suggests that is bringing together different branches of government in a national action plan helps ambition and implementation. And it's the most popular form of engagement we have been seeing in OGP. So there are many examples that we can show, and we'll present some today. In the second place, there's a new possibility presented in this memorandum of presenting OGP parliamentary action plans. These are separately co-created by parliaments, And this is the suggested option where engagement in national processes is not yet possible, or, for example, parliaments which engage in the national process see a value in also separately co-creating their own standalone action plan. There are some specific rules and things we need to follow here. I will present them in a few minutes. And in the third place, promoting openness beyond OGP. Yes, this is where parliaments want to work on the Open Gov agenda, but not necessarily in the OGP platform. We are open and available to knowledge sharing if they want to consult the materials, generate peer learning. Of course, that's an opportunity too. So regarding the first model, participation in national processes, fortunately, we have some very good examples. For example, in Chile, the bicameral group of transparency plays an integral part in the development of the National Action Plan, working with civil society and coordinating with the executive branch, and co-creating their own commitments, which are included in the national plan. We have seen some examples in Armenia too, and Nigeria. As I said, they played a key role in the beneficial ownership reforms, which were also included in the National Action Plan. So for this first model, we are presenting this document. It is very important if you are planning to engage in some in this type of form. There are no changes in rules for engagement under this option. The co-creation of the parliamentary commitments or chapter within the National Action Plan must be coordinated as part of the national co-creation process. Commitments are evaluated by the IRM in line with our current methodology. And so please, if this is the option that you prefer or that you are pushing in your country or in your local government, take a look at this menu of options because it presents a wide variety of possibilities within this model. Sorry. I think I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute because I touched there and it opened my, it opened the presentation.
Arrêter de partager.
Give me just a second. I will be back.
Je reviens dans un moment. Voilà.
Thank you so much for your patience.
Merci de votre patience.
That happens when you put links everywhere.
C'est ce qui arrive quand on met des liens partout.
So, for the second model of engagement, which is the option number 2.
Donc, pour l'option numéro 2, nous avons dit dans cette guidance qui est pour le plan d'action, les plans d'action parlementaires qui sont donc développés, élaborés par les parlements uniquement lorsqu'un processus national n'est pas possible ou lorsque il est souhaitable d'avoir un processus parlementaire supplémentaire. Il y a quelques nouvelles exigences autour de ceci. Donc, si vous prévoyez
please take a look at this guidance. Let us know so we can have a conversation and help you in this process. Parliaments opting for this option must notify the support unit, so please let us know. And the POC from the national process must be also informed. We are requiring the appointment of a parliamentary liaison so we can connect and coordinate under this new model. And there are several changes in the rules and guidance around the co-creation and reporting of these plans. So please take a look at this, this document if you're planning to apply this new model. Many things have changed with the introduction of this new model. So there are some minimum requirements. I mentioned the written notification of process initiation to the support unit, the appointment of a parliamentary liaison. There's a requirement to provide evidence of opportunities for public input and feedback during the action plan co-creation and assessment, and of course the timely submission of the assessment report. So there are also new templates for the action plan narrative and reporting. And there will be an e-filling instructions coming in some weeks on how you can present these commitments and this new action plan. These type of action plans are not assessed by the ARM, but we are presenting 3 options for self-assessment, assessment carried out by the independent offices of the Parliament, or third-party assessment. So there's a wide range of options you can consider there. And of course, what happens with locals? Well, there are some things you have to consider. For locals, there's an option to participate in the local OGP process through the inclusion of a commitment in the local action plan or through the co-creation of a joint action plan. There will be an option of a submission of a standalone local OGP open parliament plan, which will be done through a call for interest in 2023. And of course, there's always the possibility of parliamentary support of the local OGP processes, which is very important. So I will finish here with this presentation. I haven't introduced myself, I realize. I'm so rude, I'm really sorry. But my name is Rosario Pavesa and I'm Senior Parliamentary Advisor. So thank you so much. I think I will stop sharing. And we could have some minutes for questions or clarification before we start with our guests. So if you want to make a question, a comment, please raise your hand or send us your comments through the chat box. Local, there's a question there in the chat box. It says local meaning national level or at the state municipal level. We are meaning state municipal level, all governments which are not considered a national government. There's a question there around the documents in Spanish. Thank you so much, Kayla. We will have another webinar in Spanish specifically next week on the 8th. So materials will be ready in Spanish and the presentation too. So next week, in the coming days. If there is no other question, I think we were having some issues with the audio. I hope it's all working now, but please let me know if that's still a problem. We are all good. Thank you so much. So I'm going to introduce our guests today. We are really honored to have them here, as it is really important to hear what happens in the practice, right? How our activists and reformers and leaders are working to promote a leadership and ambitious role of parliaments in the open government agenda. So as I mentioned earlier, we are very lucky to have Ms. Ines Boyka, member of the Parliament of Latvia, Sami Obeng, Executive Director of Parliamentary Network Africa, and Mr. Mohamed Douka, General Advisor on International Cooperation of the Chamber of Representatives of Morocco. Thank you all for being here. I'm gonna invite Ines to speak first. Ines, thank you so much. I know you were at the Congress, at the Parliament just a few minutes before. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. You have played a key role in creating coalitions around the Lobbying Act, for example, in your country, and which is currently being discussed in the Parliament. How was your experience? How has the OGP mechanism helped you as a member of the Parliament in achieving open government goals and advancing this act in particular?
Hello, everyone. So nice to see you. I'm very honored to be here. I might not be able to stay for all of it because the Parliament unexpectedly decided to work for another session that we had to stop when we started, but they are working and they very generously let me come and speak to you. And I want to talk about two things. One is national and another one is international. And on the national level, the open government partnership as a concept since its inception almost or a decade ago has been one of my favorite concepts because it involves partnerships. And I have been a member of the parliament in the last 4 years, but before I was a member of civil society. And you can never do it alone. And now being in the parliament, you understand you can never do it alone. And you are building the partnerships. And we do have the open government plan made by the government. But we were knocking on their doors as a parliament saying, we are working on this lobbying law. So please, let's work together. Let's not make only plans. Do not make plans only for the government because the law will be written and adopted in the government. Then the other thing we did as we started to work on this law in the parliament was to create the coalitions with professional partners and NGOs and do it immediately. Of course, with the governmental institutions, but that's more typical of the parliament to work with the government on issues. And you could see it now, the law has passed the second reading out of 3 in the committee this week. And you could see that the work between the readings on the improvement of the law was mostly done by the partners from the outside, the NGOs, the experts, and members of the parliament only came to vote on the final version of it. So I would not have done it without the partnering and all of us really working together. So not a formal partnership, not on paper, but really cracking the law together. And that is one of the things, I think, as we are entering this, the whole OGP field, it is so much about innovation. It's so much about creating something new that we need to work together because we don't know the right solutions. As for this case, I'm presenting the lobbying transparency law. We don't have a perfect lobbying law in the world. I do hope that we will, as Latvia, add to the the color, the colorful bouquet of the laws that have come into force in the last decade. But we do need to create it and adjust it to the local circumstance. And we need the acceptance of the partners that will be working on those laws as we are progressing. So we do need to trust each other, and we do need to co-create to see what are the models. And we need the willing institutions that want to really have this innovation and probably have capacity to do that. And in case of Latvia, we did find a willing institution that will be working on this registrar model, our enterprise register, which we didn't look at all in the beginning as a solution. So this is a domestic. We do have the partnerships and co-creation. And then the OGP has been very helpful to us with its international, with its European network of countries. And, OGP was the right place to ask, what are other countries doing? Not where the laws are, because our library in Latvia can, researchers can deal with it. But where are the laws in progress? And you don't find it anywhere because sometimes it is not even written in the local media because some of these laws are not so interesting and reforms, but very important. So Finland and Germany, the two partners we would have never found without the OGP, and other things where we could share and participate. Through the OGP, we went to share our experience with our colleagues in Estonia, largely through OGP. We also met elsewhere, but it is, I think, very important as we progress with reforms that we do listen to each other's experiences. It's inspiring. You can support it to how we stand some difficulties. And that is also a very important partnership, I think, for our domestic issues to have these international partners. So this is how I see, still very extremely positive on the way that the parliaments are working and engaging in this network. I think as parliaments, we still need to find our own space. The governments are and NGOs are, I think, stronger, but I do hope we can bring more OGP also to the parliamentary work in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's very inspiring to hear you, and I'm gonna keep like this phrase, "You can never do it alone," in my head as a reminder. Thank you so much. I know if you have to leave, that's okay. If there's any question or comment, we can also send it to you.
Thank you. Yes, I my apologies. I want to hear everything, but I think I will now say goodbye, and then we can be in touch about the discussion and everything and work later.
We will make sure there's an opportunity. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so very glad to have Sami Obeng here, who is the Executive Director of Parliamentary Network Africa. Sami, the network and you in particular were instrumental in bringing Parliament into the OGP cooperation process in the Ghana Action Plan. So now that Ghana is implementing this action plan, how are you working, how you are coordinating with the Parliament to support the implementation process? And what is the role that you see the Parliament playing in this process in Ghana?
Well, thank you very much, Rosario. And good afternoon to everybody. I hope that you can clearly hear me. Greetings from you here. And it's a very good question you raised there. Just by way of a little background, so for those of you who may not know, Ghana is this beautiful country somewhere in West Africa that has been part of the OGP since September of 2011, and is currently implementing its fourth national action plan. The OGP process at the country level is being overseen under the auspices of the Office of the Senior Presidential Advisor. Ghana's parliament, obviously a unicameral parliament, one chamber parliament, one that has been entrenched in a democratic process since 1992, in its 8th parliament space. And throughout the entire process since 2011, the Parliament of Ghana has been an integral part of Ghana's OGP implementation process. I mean, the integration of the Parliament of Ghana in this OGP process has been through Parliament's participation in the National Multi-Stakeholder Forum, such as the consultations around the National Action Plan, members of Parliament, 2 members of Parliament at least sitting in the National Steering Committee, we having these 2 members of Parliament as OGP champions, so that they can be able to help the work. But not only that, Ghana's Parliament has also been very much involved in the legislative actions that has characterized the previous National Action Plan. So whether it is the passage of the Right to Information Law, to all other pieces of legislation that were passed as part of the previous National Action Plan. The missing piece, however, in all of these first 3 National Action Plan processes was that apart from the legislative action, Parliament did not have its own, parliamentary commitment in the National Action Plans, the first 3 National Action Plans, until recently when the 4th National Action Plan in Ghana was adopted. And this 4th National Action Plan specifically has been positioned in such a way that it allows Parliament to play its cardinal role in all of the 4 areas that even the OGP specifically sees as the roles that Parliament can play in the OGP process. Now, just to be able to drill down a bit so that you can better appreciate Ghana's Parliament and its role in the OGP process, the National Action Plan 4, which is the current National Action Plan, specifically states a parliamentary commitment, which is to the effect that the Ghana Parliament commits to effectively participate in the OGP Ghana activities by December 2022. And this is from the background that I have created, that whereas Parliament has been directly involved in the processes in the past, it hasn't had its own commitment. And so by way of this commitment, two broad milestones are what are being looked at. One is to adopt an open Parliament action plan, which will ensure that open government values such as transparency, accountability, citizens' participation are all integrated in Parliament's own work and practices. And then number two is to establish an open government partnership or OGP caucus in the Parliament by the end of 2022, so that it can serve as an avenue to create spaces for political dialogue on open government. So these are very exciting commitments, in my opinion, and for me, and for us at Parliamentary Network Africa, having supported this process, in Ghana, we think that taking it forward will be a very big game changer, within the Ghana space. You asked about how we are working with Parliament to support this implementation process. Basically, we as Parliamentary Network Africa, together with what is called the Ghana Parliamentary Monitoring Organizations Network. So in Ghana, there is a network of parliamentary monitoring organizations, which is made up of civil society organizations that engages and monitors Parliament. This is a unique creation in Ghana, which for us at Parliamentary Network Africa have been also able to replicate in 11 other West African countries. The network of parliamentary monitoring organizations has adopted or is considering or has been already engaged in this process with the Ghana Parliament through 5 broad ways. The first is how to ensure that there is proper capacity built within the parliamentary space to understand the whole concept of OGP, the concept of open Parliament, so that people can better understand it. Our appreciation of the situation shows, and when we held a workshop for parliamentarians some 4 years ago, we realized that members of Parliament, leaders of Parliament in Ghana did not really appreciate, the whole concept of OGP, and they were now picking up. And so there will be the need to build capacity so that they can be able to appreciate these things. But one of the other positive steps that have been taken is that the Parliament of Ghana on its own accord had established what is called the Open Parliament Task Team. Now, this Open Parliament Task Team is a group of staff of Parliament, and of course, soon members of Parliament will be joining in, which is expected to move these implementation forward. So that at least there is a team in Parliament that is actually supporting the national team to ensure that these commitments are being dealt with. And this team is looking forward to opening up to civil society, especially those of us who work within the parliamentary monitoring space, and of course, the broader civil society, because we know that Parliament engages in various areas to continue to engage. So with the tax team, it would help in advancing a lot of the things that are going on within the OGP and Parliament commitment. The third area of support is how are we able to also support the legislative actions that needs to be taken. If you look at the National Action Plan 4, there are many laws that needs to be passed in Parliament. There are some that needs to be amended in Parliament. Civil society is positioning itself in such a way that we can be monitoring these processes, we can be providing feedback to civil society, but also feedback to Parliament so that they know the areas that are of priority and they can be able to prioritize these areas. But we identify also that if the OGP process will be successful, Parliament must consider itself as an integral part of the monitoring process of the OGP commitment. And so as part of this work here in Ghana, we're looking at how we can get the Parliament of Ghana to understand its role in monitoring the OGP commitments at the national level, so that through parliamentary committees, through question time, through statements on the floor of Parliament, a lot of presentations can be made that will bring duty bearers to come account for where things are going so far as the OGP bit is concerned. And last but certainly not least, as part of the areas that we are working and hoping to, implement effectively this novel or very interesting area of parliamentary engagement in the OGP, is to get Parliament to understand its role in resourcing the OGP process here in Ghana through budget advocacy. Because of course, the OGP process will not be able to achieve much if the national parliament does not deliberately, make efforts to ensure that there is budget allocation. So these are areas, areas that we are hoping to engage Parliament with. Some have started, some are a long haul. We may have to, do this deliberately and carefully with Parliament. We may need a lot of support in those areas, but we are determined, through the network of PMOs. And we think that Parliament itself is also quite open in making sure that these things happen. So these are the ways that we are working with Parliament to support the OGP implementation process, Rosario.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's amazing how you have considered like all these ingredients and different aspects. I mean, you have like participation in the multi-stakeholder forum, generating spaces for dialogue within the parliament and spaces for civil society to engage, the articulation from civil society networks to monitor and to push for implementation. So it's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. I'm sure that there will be some questions and comments for you to address. I want to invite Mr. Mohamed Doka to speak now. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. You have been an integral key actor in this process in the Moroccan Parliament engagement in the first OGP action plan. How do you assess that first experience you had in 2018, 2020, and what are your coming plans or ambitions for the second action plan and co-creation process?
Bonjour tout le monde.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Rosario. I am very honored to participate in this debate, online debate, with my colleagues and friends. We are all colleagues. I have worked with a number of them who are present here at this meeting. For the Chamber of Representatives of Morocco, in September 2019, we launched a PGO plan 14 months after the adhesion of adherence of Morocco to the and the start at the implementation of our project was decided in January 2020 in a context that was not very favorable because of the pandemic, of course. My presentation will be focused on two axes. I would like to present what we have achieved. I'm sorry, I have a sore throat, but I have the test. I am COVID negative, so my electrons will not be infected by the virus. If we take stock of the commitments of the first action plan of the Chamber of Representatives of Morocco, that was focused on six main commitments, and then the second part of my presentation will be dealing with our new OGP action plan for 2023. Regarding implementation, the implementation of the constitution and exposition and the legislative for the participative democracy, we have achieved almost six results. We have implemented a parliamentary commission in charge of receiving the input from the citizens. We set up an information database to compile all these inputs. We also set up a compilation of the motions and petitions from civil society. We also published a roadmap and the citizens' petitions destined to that is addressed to the public authorities. The fifth result, we have organized 2 major meetings with civil society, over 60 associations and NGOs here at the Chamber of Representatives, and also the commitments of the Chamber of Representatives within the OGP. We've also elaborated a training plan for NGOs. Sadly, we have not been able to implement it as of now because of the pandemic. And nevertheless, since almost 2 years, we've been working with the Chamber of Representatives that has agreed on the organization of the 3rd meeting together with civil society on June 22nd, 2022, with citizens organizations that have worked on OGP, and particularly with our partners from the Chamber of Representatives. And of course, there's WFP, NPA, and PCA, etc. Regarding the second commitment, the commitment of the citizens and the participation of citizens, we have implemented we publish all the legislative proposals so that all citizens can comment and enrich these legislative processes and propositions. We have also set up a response system for the citizens, and we have also implemented a compilation system of all citizens' input, and it has been distributed and published with the parliamentary groups.
As for the 3rd commitment, in terms of information, this is systematically discussed in both in commission and in the plenary session. We published in part the archives of the House of Representatives, given the fact that the House of Representatives has 3 million documents that have been since 1966 that have been digitized. And we also signed agreements with many organizations, public organizations that are interested in the archives. So as concerns the 4th commitment, opening to the public and especially the youth, we have developed a plan which we've started to implement. We published communication material for youth. Third, we launched the process of creating a parliamentary channel for this purpose. We reviewed the website, which is now in 5 languages. And during the pandemic, we live streamed the discussions of the parliamentary commissions, since the plenary sessions are live streamed through official channels. But we also have a number of brochures and foldouts and other communication materials on paper, and we created a space for parliamentary memory in the House of Representatives. For the youth, we created and published a graphic novel that traces the work, the day of a parliamentarian, a member of parliament. In other words, what a week looks like at the House of Representatives in very simple language, and that connects our younger audience with the parliament and its work. It's in Arabic, and it can be translated. It's going to be translated. The fifth commitment is the involvement of citizens in the process, and clearly in the operations that we have conducted in terms of evaluating public policies, the NGOs and the public, the beneficiaries, and everyone else is consulted. They are audited, they are consulted also in writing, so that they can send their comments and their opinions regarding the policy for every evaluation. As concerns developing partnerships with civil society and academe, universities, we signed an agreement with the 12 public universities of the kingdom, and the 12 they represent the 12 regions, and this is, of course, going to involve, and already involves, academics, research centers in parliamentary action, and also enables researchers to benefit, to enjoy the documentation, to have access to the documentation and see how parliamentary procedures proceed and how the work is organized. As concerns the future, there are 6 commitments and 7 other commitments that we have already developed and that we have already begun to implement. The first is a partnership consolidated with civil society organizations, and this involves training trainers for civil society in the 12 regions of the Kingdom of Morocco to enable them to train NGOs in participative democracy, advocacy, citizens, petitions, and motions in the area of legislation. In this context, in this process, of course, we have partners who are strongly committed with us, and that is the NDI, the Minister for MDI, Minister for Democracy, and also we have institutional twinning financed by the European Union, for which, within the context of which the House of Representatives is twinned with 7 other parliaments. The second commitment is a local partnership, and that is the House of Representatives, the deputies, the representatives, the civil servants can go into the field in the country to meet with the youth in the high schools, in the universities, in other areas, to talk about the need to participate, the values of democracy, of opening, of openness, of participation, and so forth. Third commitment, opening up to the public and reception action. How the parliament must improve reception of citizens with contents that is understandable. You have all of this detailed and explained in the text that I sent to you. Fourth, in commitment is the digital challenge. And I think that's important for everyone, for all parliaments. Fifth commitment, involving citizens in the process of work of the parliament, evaluation, etc. This is a consolidation of what we have already done. Sixth commitment and last one is theme-based summer camps with a content that will enable young people while they are at summer camp, what parliament is, what democracy is, what participation is, what diversity is, what are the values of living together in this world, which is suffering from several, from hate, from extremism, and so forth. A number of challenges. So we also have the logistical proximity forums, how to involve people, engage them in the process of developing a law. The process, of course, how to do it, how to proceed, how to develop the law, and enable the citizens to benefit, to use their constitutional rights, specifically Article 13 of the Constitution that gives this right to citizens of developing motions and drafts in legislative drafts addressing the parliament. These are basically the two basic guidelines. So taking stock, A, and B, the future. In other words, what we will be implementing in the coming 2 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I see there's a proactive effort that you're doing for opening up spaces, right? And you have also mentioned the role of youth, which is super important. So I'm really glad that you're also considering to engage youth as a specific group of actors which need to be addressed, and use the OGP platform for that. So we have some time for comments and questions. So please, to all of our participants here, feel free to raise your hand through the Zoom option or write your question in the chat box. We have this space to have a conversation. Even if you have questions about the parliamentary memorandum and the new materials, or questions specifically for our speakers here. Hi, Maya, thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Hi, I am very glad to meet with you and to participate in this event. I am very glad that the issue has come up for discussion. It's a great opportunity for parliaments to make their own choice, I think. I am the secretary of Georgian Permanent Parliamentary Council on Open Governance. This council was created and established in 2015. We have implemented 4 action plans. Now, the form of our work is we work within the framework of National Action Plan. But last year, we have elaborated independently action plan with cooperation and support of our consultative group of NGOs. Along with the co-creation process, but we lacked more or less public discussions because of political realities in Georgia and of course of COVID pandemic and emergency situation in the country. But we assessed pros and cons and preferred to develop a standalone action plan. We thought a postponement would be worsen our achievements that we have done for openness of the parliament. The situation was that there was not coincidence with the timeline of the government OGP Council. So we created the 4th action plan independently and are implementing this plan. I think we have more or less important achievements in this direction. I can I can submit information about our achievements, but it's interesting how we are now considering after you submitted the material about new choices of parliaments. We are discussing what form of membership or participation is preferable for us, for Georgian Parliament and Open Governance Council. So we are glad to participate in this event, and it's very valuable peer learning for us, and it's very interesting chance for us to show our results done during the implementation of Open Parliament action plans.
Thank you so much. Very glad to hear that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, part of the objective of being all of us together here is that not only we can learn about this new memorandum and materials, but also connect with others and try to learn from each other from these experiences. So really glad you are here. Any other comments, suggestions, doubts, questions for our speakers? I have a question, but I would like to give the chance to others to speak first. Okay, so I'll start. Both of you have presenting very challenging experiences. My question would be if you had to make recommendations to someone who's starting, a reformer, a civil society activist, a representative from the parliament, who wants to start to push for a more ambitious engagement of the parliament in the Open Gov agenda, which would be like your 2 or 3 main recommendations to have a successful process? Sami, would you like to start?
Very well. That's a very interesting question. And yeah, of course, with my biases on matters relating to open parliament, especially for somebody who works for an organization that is called Parliamentary Network Africa, that is seeking to promote open parliament across the continent of Africa. Obviously, we have a big bias towards focusing more on parliamentary openness and the open parliament agenda, as part of the entire OGP framework. I personally consider this memorandum on parliamentary engagement that has been, revised, relaunched by OGP as a very instrumental document, which, in my opinion, contains, the various angles to what countries can explore and try. We just had the Georgian example where they had gone on the second route, the second option of, a standalone parliamentary action plan. Of course, the Ghana route is the first route, which is plugging into the overall national action plan. But I would recommend these immediate two. First of all, if there has to be an open parliament action that needs to be taken, certainly the Memorandum for Parliamentary Engagement and the Menu of Options are 2 very important documents that one must engage with, because for me, I think they are self-explanatory. They give a step-by-step approach to what's needed to be done, how it must be done, and it allows for some easy steps to what can be done. But in all of this, I think, just as all of us are very excited about the co-creation nature of OGP generally, making sure that the system provides an opportunity where civil society and government can work together. We know that we have some of our colleagues from the Gambia who are in the audience at the moment. The Gambia is a country in West Africa, for those of us who may not know, but that's a country that is not part of OGP, yet, you have civil society activists that are enthused about wanting to get connected, but they've already also created a network of parliamentary monitoring organizations that are seeking to, engage. And so these tools, in my opinion, are very useful starting points. They allow for people to be able to immerse themselves with numerous examples of best practices, what has worked, what may not have worked, so that you are able to avoid the various pitfalls. So that's certainly one of the best recommendations that I would make to anybody who is new to the OGP process and who wishes to, connect to it.
Thank you so much. Mohamed?
Merci. Alors, s'il y a recommandation ou bien conseil à donner, de par ma pratique,
from my practice, if there's any recommendation from my practice, I would recommend to civil society, to each actor, to respect the statutes and the role of each actor, from the political status, the role, everyone has its own role to play. It's a field of intervention and a field of work and field of action, and the civil society and the NGOs and the association and the organization, civil organizations, they all have their own status and they have their own role to play. So we need to define this clearly and respect it. Secondly, we need to invest in the future, because in a context where anti-parliamentarism is growing, while at the moment we are working for democracy, for the consolidation of the right of law at the world. In the world, there are many organizations, many speeches that are prospering, that are anti-democratic, that are anti-parliamentarian. So we need to invest in the future, in the youth, in the young people. So make the young people understand the necessity of democracy, how the necessity of a parliament that is open, a parliament that is elected in a transparent and constitutional manner, and in a very clear constitutional framework. I think that is the future, to build the future and to invest in the values. In these values, we need to promote them with the young people. We need to start this from primary school on, and we need to work also an entire national territory in order to give. We need to get people to come to parliament so that they know what is a parliament, what is this space materially, what is this space, what is a chamber, what is a house, what is a legislative project, what is a parliamentary commission, what is a simple commission, etc., etc. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's all very interesting what you're presenting. Let me ask if there's any question from the participants. It says, we have a comment in the chat box. Thanks a lot for all the great sharing. In Taiwan, we have started a separate Open Parliament Action Plan, but we are sadly yet to be a formal member of OGP. Is there any platform for us non-members to share with and learn from the OGP member states which have similar settings as we do? Yes, for sure. This third model that we are presenting is specifically to promote that for those who are not part of the partnership, but want to learn from the experiences, want to use the materials, participate in these events. Of course, the platform is open. So we're really glad you can be here and you can participate in these activities and even reach our speakers and other partners who I'm sure will be glad to help you and collaborate in any way they can. So please visit our website, because we have set up a specific section for all things related to Parliament, we've been sharing the website and the section in our chat box, but you can find there all these materials, which of course are open for you to use. And there are in the guidelines for the OGP action plans, you can find templates, suggestions on how to engage with the Parliament, templates for the commitments, for the action plans, and also for the assessments. So all those resources are open for everybody to use, of course. Anyone who would like to engage or add something?
Yeah, Rosario, just in addition to the point you made about the question that was asked, one of the very interesting things that I personally find in this new parliamentary Memorandum on Parliamentary Engagement is that it provides a section for how you can even participate in parliamentary engagement on OGP if your country is not an OGP country. And for me, it is a useful tool for, countries like the example that was just cited by the questioner in the case of Taiwan, and even in the Gambian example, that I cited earlier on, because our work is regional and across Africa, you also get a lot of these concerns of, well, our country is not part of OGP, how can we get involved in this? And I think perhaps, a lot more light can be thrown by the support unit to countries like that, especially civil society players and actors who are in countries like these, so that they can be able to recognize, the overall role that they have to play in this, because, the whole concept of, open governance, open parliament is catching fire, the world over. Of course, on our own continent in Africa, it is catching fire. We are looking at ways where we have initiated what we call the 360-degree to parliamentary openness here on the continent, where there is a network of parliamentary journalists in Africa, a network of civil society organizations that monitors parliament in Africa. Very soon, at the end of this year, there will be the launch of an index that grades, national parliaments, particularly in West Africa, on openness, so that civil society can have an evidence-based tool that will be used to advocate with Parliament on the things that need to be done so far as parliamentary openness is concerned. And if we continue these over and over, there could be many open Parliament reforms that can be created. There will be many open Parliament actions that can be created and reforms that can be embarked on. And we would have parliaments that are more transparent, accountable, and working better for citizens. Thank
you so much. Maya, I think you have raised your hand. Sorry, I wasn't seeing all the screen, sorry.
I wanted to underline that it's crucial to develop a strong OGP parliamentary network. We always had the grievance that our results were not shown widely. We did not have opportunity to peer learning, to exchange of our experience. We could not even find information on parliaments with the same aspiration of openness. So it was difficult, minimum, to find the appropriate information. So your decision, your politic is received with great pleasure and great aspiration from us to create the strong OGP parliamentary network. It's a great opportunity for parliaments engaged in openness and transparency.
I'm really glad, and I think we should strengthen this community and these alliances to support each other in these objectives that we have. Yes, please open up your mic, Mamadou Barry.
Okay. Bonjour. Je vais parler français.
Hello, I'm going to speak in French. My name is Mamadou Barry. My English is not good enough for that. So my name is Mamadou Barry from Senegal. I am a member of the National Committee of the OGP of Senegal. I would like to apologize because I joined this meeting very late. I had other constraints. As you can As you know, maybe Senegal has just joined recently the OGP initiative. And what we would like to note that Senegal has just implemented its own action plan, OGP action plan, and it is a action plan that has 12 commitments, yes. And in the elaboration process of this action plan, we have strongly worked together with the members of parliament. Today, we are at the stage of the implementation of this action plan because this has already been presented at the ministerial council. I am trying to tell you that this is our first action plan and that we have already organized the distribution of this action plan. Now, the fundamental problem which we are confronted with now is a communication problem because since the OGP is a very nice initiative with lots of value, the challenges today we have is to make it known in Senegal through the action plan that we try very simply to get as many actors, institutions, civil society to really adhere to the OGP concept. It was not easy. Through the action plan, Senegal is now implementing a process that goes into this. Some other plans, some countries are second, third, or fourth action plan. We are still working on our first action plan, and we can guarantee you that you will hear from us very soon. We always count on those who have far more experience than us, who have numerous action plans. So that we can implement properly the action plan. So I just wanted to tell you that Senegal was here, and sorry for having joined this meeting late. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad you're sharing your experience and that you're also being very ambitious, sharing that you will be doing more in the future. You have mentioned something which is key around communication and how we can improve, because that's having a good communication is also part of getting to involve more citizens, getting to involve more key actors, and we need to have inclusive processes to be known as reformers, and in our different roles, as Mohammed mentioned. Each of these roles is important, and it is also important how we can communicate with citizens who are not usually engaged in these matters. And of course, we have a challenge there because it's sometimes not easy to share our message. So I think that's another challenge we have as a community, an open parliament community here. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Any other comment, question, experience? Yes, please go ahead, Lilia.
Hello to everyone. And we're sorry for hearing me. You hearing me? Okay, thank you. I just get home. It's non-working hours in Armenia. I'm very sorry, but I'm very happy to hear all interactions and experiences of our colleagues. I'm Lilia. I'm a National OGP Coordinator of Armenia and also point of contact. I just want to bring the situation we have in Armenia related to the parliament engagement. I'm with OGP up to 8 years, and I'm very underlying and appreciating the right communication and inclusion of all levels, national, local, and parliamentary. We had up to 4 legislative amendments or changes in our previous National Action Plan. And it was very important for us to have parliamentary integration in the processes. But maybe you know that last year we held snap parliamentary elections, and now the opposition of the parliament is in the streets, and they are boycotting the parliamentary sessions. And we're just thinking how to manage with this situation and have no any ideas. Some of our partners from National MSF suggested to go on with the Open Parliament initiative and work with the members who are represented in the parliament. But frankly speaking, we have only the ruling party representation in the parliament just now, and it won't be fair to work only with them, as we have the majority in the cabinet and majority in the parliament. So we are facing such situation in Armenia, and it's somehow similar with the Georgian experience. But I'm happy for Georgia, as they can manage and go on with the parliament. I know that Georgia still do not present its national action plan as Armenia, but I do hope to manage all these situations for the future. And happy finding some moments in the memorandum that somehow will address these crises. So I hope that for the close future, we will have some healthy environment and could go on with these parliamentary processes. But anyway, I would like to underline that we should go on and think how to institutionalize all these processes and communication out of individual representations, as sometimes we understand that all depends on the individuals. So this is what I'm working on in our country on national and local level, and also hope to work with Parliament to institutionalize all processes which won't be depends on the political situation in the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience and the context. And I mean, we welcome any type of parliamentary engagement, and when the context is the appropriate, as part of the National Action Plan or as a standalone. And some of the new guidelines we are presenting are also thought to provide more flexibility on these scenarios, because we know every context is different. The challenges sometimes change very quickly within the same country. So that is one of the ideas. And of course, we are here as a support unit and as a partnership and a community to help you in that process. I think Mohamed wanted to speak. Yes, please go ahead.
It is true what Madame Lilia said. It is important to take into consideration, to consider the context, political, historic, of every democracy and of every democracy and every system, every political system. Because, of course, there's what we share together, the values, the democratic values, the principles, the respect for human rights, diversity, et cetera, but there's also the degree of maturity of each democracy, of every society. This must always be considered. We must always consider that aspect. It is important to set the tone for civil society and also to political, to the politicians, to get on board with, to take ownership of this. It's an accumulative process. How people can become aware of the importance of the speeches, of the contents of OGP, of what OGP is saying, because the ultimate objective is to root and to protect democracy through partnerships with other actors who are not political actors or institutional actors, but who can always feed this democracy, which throughout the world, which is suffering a bit. Democracy, parliamentary democracy, institutional democracy is, so to speak, in a state of suffering. And this can be shown, for instance, in the rate of participation, the anti-parliamentarian discourse. And to reverse that equation, it is necessary to always take into consideration the context and also gradually build on this accumulation and focus always on dialogue, emphasize dialogue, take, of course, into account the geopolitical and geostrategic context of each region. I think that what we are experiencing throughout the world right now testifies to all this and invites us to improve and deepen our thinking on democracy and on the way to nourish it and to protect it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very important words you have shared with us. And I think we share this. I mean, we are worried about some things we're seeing and about the democratic backslide and I think that's happening in many regions. It's not, I am from South America and we are facing big challenges here too. So I'm really glad we are here to learn from each other. I want to thank especially our speakers and all of you who have been here listening, participating, actively sharing your experiences and your questions. Thank you so much. It is really inspiring to have you all together and to reinforce our commitment towards the parliamentary openness and the role that parliaments can play in the national and in the local processes. OGP is carrying out a strategic consultation to develop its strategy for the next years. We are sharing in the chat box some links where you will find the opportunity to collaborate and be part of that consultation. This is very important. We are a partnership. Each of you is part of OGP and a fundamental actor in this process. So we want to hear from your experience and we want to hear your opinions. So please take a minute to be part of that consultation. There will be some different types of opportunities, public meetings, online consultation, but you can also participate through that virtual platform. So thank you so much. We are gonna reach you via email to send you all the materials. It is all public online if you wanna go now into our website and find the guidelines, but we are also sending it via email. And thank you so much. I know there will be other opportunities, but please reach us if you need help, if you need collaboration. And there are many partners here today who are also eager to support you. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sami.
Goodbye.
Mohamed.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Goodbye. Goodbye.